So hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. In today's session, I am simply going to discuss VAT Inclusive versus VAT Exclusive. Now, what's the purpose of this video? The purpose of this video, or the purpose of this session, is to simply teach you a simple technique that should enable you to get any of these figures because you're going to encounter this a lot, especially in practice. Now, what do I mean? This is what I mean. Let's say, for example, from what you've just seen, you're seeing here, we have what we call the amount before VAT right here. So the amount before VAT means the amount before VAT has been charged. In other words, the amount that is VAT exclusive. Here in our illustration, we have 10,000, okay? Then on this 10,000, we went ahead and applied the VAT rate. For Uganda, it is 18%. For other countries, it varies. So we've applied the 18% tax rate onto this 10,000, and we've ended up with 1,800. So it means 1,800 is the value added tax. So when we get the amount before VAT, or the VAT exclusive amount, and then we add that to the VAT itself, when we add these two, we are ending up with the amount, the total consideration. This is what we are calling the total consideration. Okay, the total consideration, or call it the amount after VAT. Okay, the amount after VAT. So this is what is going to be paid entirely for whatever product it is, and this is what we are going to describe as VAT inclusive. Now here is the thing. In practice, you're not always going to find all this information full like this. Okay, sometimes you're going to find that you just have the amount, the figure for VAT exclusive, and you're required to find the VAT and the total VAT and the VAT exclusive. Or sometimes you're simply going to have the VAT figure, and now you need to work backwards to get the amount before VAT, so that you're able to get the total amount inclusive of VAT. Or sometimes you're going to just be having the amount with VAT, that is the VAT inclusive figure, the amount after VAT. You just have that amount, and now you need to work backwards to get the amount, the VAT amount that is included here, plus, the amount before VAT. So this is what is always going to happen in practice. You're not always going to have all these three figures there. In most cases, you're going to just have one figure, and you're going to either have to work backwards to arrive at the figure you want. So I'm just going to teach you some techniques on how to work around this. So I'm first going to give you the technique the way it is. Then afterwards, I'm going to explain where it is coming from and why we use those techniques. Okay. So again, we have made, you guys know, VAT inclusive means that it is this one. VAT inclusive means that we have both the amount before VAT and the VAT component included there. So this is like the sales figure, the total sales figure, having the VAT inclusive, with VAT included. Then we have VAT exclusive, of course, VAT exclusive, like you're seeing here. It is the figure before VAT has been imposed. It is exclusive of VAT. Okay, so now let's start with scenario number one. Okay, scenario one. These are things you're going to find in practice. Scenario one, let's say I just have 10,000, and they're telling me that 10,000 is the amount exclusive of VAT. When you have just amount, okay, exclusive of VAT. So when you just have the amount exclusive of VAT, how do I work from this amount to arrive at the VAT amount and the amount inclusive of VAT? This one is very straightforward. This 10,000 means we are going to apply the VAT rate, so it's going to be 10,000. Multiply that by 18%, and you're going to end up with 1,800. So it means here you have the 10,000 as exclusive of VAT, you add your VAT, which is 1,800, and at the end of the day, when you add the two, you have 11,800, and this is going to be VAT inclusive. Okay, this is straightforward. So the first scenario is straightforward. Now let's look at the second scenario. The second scenario is the scenario where I just have the VAT figure and I need to get the other two figures. So how do we go about that? So the second scenario, I just have the VAT figure only. Okay, so the VAT figure is 1,800. Now in this VAT, this is the VAT figure, but now I want the figure for before VAT. Okay, the VAT exclusive figure. I want the figure for VAT exclusive. I already have my VAT, okay, as 1,800, and of course I also want my VAT inclusive figure here. So if I only have VAT, how do I work backwards to get the VAT exclusive, okay, and the VAT inclusive figure? So I get my amount of VAT. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to get this. Remember, this VAT figure represents 18%. Okay, this VAT figure, it represents 18%. So if that VAT figure is representing 18%, so I am going to divide it by what it represents. So it's going to become 1,800, divide that by the 18%. Of course, the 18%, which is 18 over 100, is the same as saying 1,800, divide that by 0.18. I am representing it, I am dividing it by what it represents. So that is 1,800, divide that by 0.18, and you're going to end up with 10,000. So the 10,000 you're getting is the value that is exclusive of VAT. So it is here. So we've gotten that. It is the 10,000 we are going to put here. And of course, after getting that 10,000, when you add the two, you end up with 11,800. So that is the second scenario. When you only have the VAT figure only, you're going to work backwards like that. You're going to divide it by the 18% because, well, it's represented by 1,800. Why are we dividing by 18%? I am going to prove it. I am going to show you how we come to this step mathematically towards the end of this video. Let me first give you the overall picture. So that is the second scenario. Scenario 2, when the VAT figure, is when we just have this VAT figure. Let's go to this third scenario. So in the third scenario, we have the VAT inclusive figure. Remember, we first have VAT exclusive, then we have the VAT. When we add those two figures, we have the VAT inclusive. And in this case, we only have the VAT inclusive figure, which is 11,800. So that is the 11,800 that we have. But how do we work backwards from this 11,800 so that we are able to get the value for VAT and the value for VAT exclusive? How do we work backwards? This is you've found a scenario in practice. You just have the figure, the final figure for that is VAT inclusive, and you need to work backwards. So how do you do it? Now we get back to this. We ask ourselves, let's get back to the first scenario and I show you something. So in our first scenario, what we are having is if you see this thing in the first scenario, what we have, or what I need you to see, is that this 10,000 represents 100%. Okay, it represents 100%. This 1,800 represents 18%, because this is the VAT component, 18%. So it means when we add these two percentages, it's going to give us the VAT Exclusive. So the VAT Inclusive figure you're seeing here, this 11,800, is having 100% plus the 18%. So it is having 118%. That is what it is. So because this VAT Inclusive figure is 11,800, so in order for us to work backwards to get these other two figures, we are going to divide it by the percentage it represents. It is just like the way we did in scenario 2, remember? In scenario 2, because this 1,800 represents 18%, we are going to divide this 1,800 by the 18% so that we work backwards to get the 10K. And I'm going to show you how we get to this mathematically. So this is what we are going to do here for scenario 3. We have 11,800. 11,800 represents 118%. So what does that mean? It means that we're going to divide it by that. So it's going to be 11,800 divide that by 118%. Now to remove that percentage sign, it's the same as saying divide by 118 over 100, which is the same as saying 11,800 divide that by 1.18. That is what it means. So when we get 11,800 and divide that by 1.18, what do we have? When we divide that by 1.18, we end up having the amount before VAT, what is the VAT Exclusive, which is 10,000. Okay, so we will come here and get our 10,000. And of course, if you have the 10,000, it's just a matter of subtraction to get the VAT. So we get 11,800 minus the 10,000, and what do we have here as VAT? It's going to be 1,800. We get this VAT by getting the 11,800 minus 10,000 to get the 1,800, and that is what we are putting here as our VAT. So I think those are the three techniques. Like again, I'm saying this, you're going to meet this a lot in practice. In practice, you're not always going to have all these three figures given to you, but you're going to need to find quick ways of working backwards to get the figure. And the technique here is to identify which one, which one is what means what. Like if I only have the VAT figure, how do I get to the value of VAT Exclusive? You're going to find that a lot in your practice. Okay, so now that I have showed you, I think you've gotten the overall technique. The thing is to identify the figure and divide it by that. For example, here, if you just only have VAT is representing 18%. If you divide that by its percentage, by the percentages it represents, then you'll get back to the amount exclusive of VAT. It's the same thing here. We only had VAT Inclusive, and we know that the VAT Inclusive figure is representing 118%. Okay, so we simply get the figure, we divide it by the percentage it represents, and we get back to the VAT Exclusive figure. So that is how you can quickly work backwards along those figures for you to be able to get what is VAT Inclusive, what is VAT Exclusive. It is the same technique that you're going to employ when we are doing, let's say, withholding tax. The 6% withholding tax. Let's say you just have withholding tax of 6%. Let's say they've withheld tax from you at a rate of 6%, and the 6% is maybe corresponding to, let's say, 100,000. So if you want to find out where that 6% comes from, you're just going to simply divide that by, there's 6%, and then you'll be able to get the amount. Now, we will discuss that when we are talking about income tax, that will be in another video series. So, of course, some of you, I think by now, have already gotten the technique, you have crammed it, and I am already guessing you're going to stop the video here. Well, I should say that is dangerous, because sometimes it helps to know how these things come so that in case you get a unique scenario where you're stuck, you're able to reason things out from first principles. So now I'm continuing the session to explain mathematically why we are dividing by 0.18, why we are dividing by 1.18. Where are those things coming from? So that's what I'm going to do. So let's do it from here. Let's say I have VAT. Of course, the thing we've been using here is that we have the amount before VAT, which is VAT exclusive. We have been giving that as 10,000. And then the VAT is 1,800. And then when you add the two, we have the amount after VAT, or the amount that is VAT inclusive, which is 11,800. So I'm going to do this mathematically. Let's assume I only have this figure. I only have 1,800. Now remember, I know 1,800 is represented by 18%. So what I'm going to come here, and do and say that 1,800, which so happens to be my VAT figure, is corresponding to 18%. So if my figure of 1,800 is corresponding to 18%, what am I interested in? I am interested in the amount before VAT, and I know that the amount before VAT is represented by 100%. So what is that amount before VAT? What is it going to be corresponding to? So if my 1,800 corresponds to 18%, what about my amount before VAT? What is it going to be? I know my amount before VAT is representing 100%, but what is it going to be? What is the figure? It's what I'm trying to look for. I do not know it. So let me give it an unknown, x. So I'll give it x. So after presenting my figures like that in a ratio, the percentages on one side and the figures I want on the other, then I'm going to cross multiply. So x times 18% is going to be 18% of x is going to be equal to 1,800 times 100%, like that. So I'm going to divide both. Now this is simple math. Divide both sides by 18%. Divide both sides by 18%. So this goes with that. We shall remain with our x, giving us, of course, this is going to be 1,800. This is the same as saying times 100%. Okay, divide that by 18%. That is what it means. Now these percentage signs can be done away with. This percentage sign and that percentage sign can go. So I remain with 1,800. Multiply that by 100 over 18. Now I change this multiplication sign into division. I hope you guys remember those simple concepts. 1,800, this multiplication sign, I convert it to a division sign, and when I convert it into a division sign, it means that this fraction here is going to also flip. I'm going to write the reciprocal of this fraction. It's going to be 18 over 100, and so this is going to become 1,800. Divide that by 18 over 100 is the same as 0.18. So you realize that this 1,800, divide that by 0.18. This is the stage in the working. That is the stage in the working that we are implementing in our scenario 2. I think if you can come here in our second scenario, this stage here, 1,800. So in other words, when I simply come and say, oh, I have the VAT figure, it is 1,800, how do I do it? To work backwards to get to the amount before VAT, I just divide by 0.18. When I'm just dividing by 0.18, I have indirectly jumped all these steps. I have jumped them and I have come here. I'm just dividing that by 0.18 and I'm getting my amount before VAT, which is 10,000. That is how, this is the derivation of that reasoning mathematically. It's 1,800 divided by 0.18. Let me do this same thing for the third scenario when I just have a VAT and a VAT inclusive figure. Again, I show you how it all adds up. So the third scenario, remember we said VAT amount before VAT, so which is amount before VAT, which is VAT exclusive. Okay, we said VAT exclusive was 10,000. Then our VAT, remember, is 1,800. So when we add those two, we have our fake figure, which is VAT inclusive, which is going to be 11,800. Okay, so now here, same story. What am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and this is my VAT inclusive figure. This is what I have. Remember, this is representing 100%. This is representing 18%. And when we add the two, they're representing 118%. Okay, so now I have encountered, maybe I just have someone is buying to me something, there's a selling, and they've just said that we sold the thing at 11,800 and the amount of VAT is included here. Now I want to split this figure. So to split that figure, it's going to be, I know that this VAT inclusive figure 11,800 includes VAT, so it's the percentage is it's represented by 18%. Okay, so my value for VAT inclusive represents 18%, but me, I am interested in finding the VAT exclusive figure, which is represented by 100%. So I'll say if 118% is being represented by this figure that is VAT inclusive, what about 100%? What is it going to represent? I do not know. I'm trying to look for this figure. So I'll put X, cross multiply. When I cross multiply, it's going to be 118% of X, because it's 118 times X, which is 118 of X, is going to be equal to 11,800, multiply that by 100%, like that. So divide both sides by 118%, divide both sides by 118%. When this cancels with that, we end up with the value of X as this. Those two will cancel. This is the same as saying 11800. This is times, it is 100 over 118, like that. So we continue, like we did before, it's going to be 11,800. What's the reciprocal? When we put a division sign, we write the reciprocal of this, which is 118 over 100. Okay, and of course this is the same as saying 11,800. Divide that by 118 over 100, that 0 goes, decimal point moves behind, that 0 goes, decimal point moves behind, we end up with 1.18. So this 1.18, this is the step we were doing in our third scenario. When I scroll up here in our third scenario here, I think you can see up here. That is what we were doing. So in other words, when you have a figure that is VAT inclusive, you know that the figure for VAT inclusive represents 118%. So because it's representing 118%, you just divide it by that. So you just say, like quick math, 118% divide by 1.18, or divide by 118%. Okay, when we divide it by that, in other words, we have skipped all these steps and we have arrived at this final point, and then we are able to get our value before VAT, which is 10,000. And of course, when you have any two figures, you have your value before VAT, then you can easily find the VAT by subtracting. So that is how this technique is coming through, mathematically. It's just like that. So again, if I am to just give a random figure, let's say you have VAT of 3,600. And then I ask you, find the amount before VAT. Okay, this is just an example. I have my VAT of 3,600. I'm simply going to get 3,600, divide that by, now because this is the VAT figure and I know VAT represented by 18%, I'm just simply going to divide that by 0.18. And when I get when I divide that by 0.18, I'm simply going to get 20,000. So I simply know that my amount before VAT is 20,000. I'm going to add the VAT component, which is the 3,600. And at the end of the day, I'm going to get 23,600. And that's my amount after VAT, or VAT inclusive. As simple as that. Let me just do one more example. Let's say you have been given a figure. Let's say you've been given 20,000, okay? And that 20,000 you have been given, they're telling you that it is VAT inclusive, okay? So if it is VAT inclusive, it means you need you need to find the VAT exclusive plus the VAT. So if it is VAT inclusive, it means that in this figure represents 118%. It has the 100 plus the VAT component. It's inclusive, it's inside there. So what I do, I'm going to simply say 20,000, divide that by 1.18, or call it 118%. So when I get that 20,000 and divide it by 1.18, what I'm going to get is 16,949.15. So this becomes my VAT exclusive. And of course, if I have my VAT exclusive, then I can also get my VAT from there, which is 20,000 minus 16,000. You're going to end up with 3050.84, or let me call it 85. Okay, this is the VAT, and when you add those two, you end up with the 20,000, which so happens to be our VAT inclusive figure right there. Okay, so in practice, that's the technique you use to arrive at those calculations. So that being said, I hope I have been able to throw adequate light on this matter, the difference between VAT inclusive and VAT exclusive, and how to work backwards to get what figure you want. Again, in practice, it's not always going to be the case that you're going to find these figures all. In most cases, you're going to find one of these three, and you're going to be required to work backwards to find the other, to facilitate whatever calculations you're doing in your VAT, in your tax work. My name is Arnold Kisembo, and this is it. I'll catch you guys in the next session. Take care.